I didn't go to prison until I was 18. And when I went to prison for when I was 18, it was for a fine. Yeah, and my dad, I phoned my dad up, and I asked my dad to pay the fine. And he started. He was really strict and really, Jamaican and really strict man. And he goes to me, "You put yourself there, so in other words, just get on with it. I'm not coming down from Holston all the way down to Hammersmith magistrates to come and pay your fine." So in other words, I went to prison. First time I've ever been in prison. Horrible experience. You're in with somebody you don't want to be in with. Maybe you don't even know. The guy that they happened to put me in was pretty big, yeah, and he thought it was funny to keep me awake and start farting and doing, yeah. So I got the hump I got the hump, and it was just a bad experience for me. So I vowed never to go back to prison again. I said, right, that's it. I'm not going back to prison. Yeah, I'm going to stop doing. I'm going to start working, and I started working in Shepherd's Bush Market. And then I met some of my old mates, and then it wasn't long before I got in trouble again, and then I went to prison again when I was 21 for a burglary. What was a residential, so it was a flat burglary I done with a friend.
Where did you rob?
Jewellery from this.
Worth much?
Yeah, quite a bit. I got caught with quite a bit of it. We actually got put onto it by someone that was related to the person, so it was all sort of set up. Yeah, so we went there, took it, but we happened to get caught. Somebody see us, and as we were coming out and going to the lift, the police just grabbed us.
Crime at this stage? Was you on?
So I was on. Basically, I was drinking then. I was drinking a lot then. My father was an alcoholic. Sorry, my stepfather, because by that time my real father had died. So my stepfather was an alcoholic. He was living with my mum. He got me on the drink when I was young. So that carried on from like 13 up until my 30s. Even now I'm still drinking now, yeah, but I stopped for a while. And then I sort of was taking speed, Valium, anything I could get, Mogadon, all sorts. So I was taking all sorts of stuff. And it wasn't until I was 24, I think, I got on heroin. I had a bad argument with my partner at the time, and I nearly strangled her, to be honest. Yeah, if it wasn't for my mate, I might have been done for murder. Yeah, that day, because I was that angry, and I just lost it. I completely blacked out. Yeah, I didn't. It was only when my mate said to me, "You nearly killed her. If I didn't pull you off, you'd have probably killed her that day." Yeah, so I went off. I was in the huff. She had slagging my sister, and my sister come to stay with us, yeah, for a week. And basically my sister was living off of us, yeah, and using the phone all the time and run out things, and she was constantly in my ear all the time, and I was saying, look, it's my sister. I'll make sure everything's sorted and da-da-da. Like, and she just wouldn't have it, and it was just argument all the time, and then she slapped me. And because she slapped me, and it was pretty hard, yeah, I just lost it. To be honest with you. I was young then, I didn't really want to be with her, yeah, and I just ended up grabbing her around the neck. Well, no, fighting with her first, and then she was on the floor, and I grabbed her around the neck, and I just lost it, I blacked out. And then I went up to my mate's house, after that, stormed away, went up to my mate's house, and he said to me, "Here, this will make you feel better, Del." And he gave me a bit of, because my mates then were taking heroin, but I hadn't. I thought it was to be honest with you, I thought heroin was for like poor people that didn't have nothing in their life. I thought like trampy people like that had it, yeah, and I was naive to it. Yeah, and my mates was on it, so they give me an injection, and I swear that day, it's like everything changed for me. It was like all my troubles, all that, nearly killing my girlfriend. Yeah, it was all out the window. I was dead calm, and I liked it. It was nice, but I never knew nothing about it. I never knew nothing about heroin, and then I was using for about 6 months. Using a needle, and then I went to my family. My family's not into that, not into that sort of stuff. So they're wondering why the summer I'm wearing long sleeves and they've all got their tops off and vests or whatever. And they're saying to me, take your top off when you're going swimming and stuff like that. And I wouldn't take my top off because I had all track marks along my arms and that. And so I was embarrassed. And so basically that's how I first got on heroin. But I didn't know anything about withdrawals or anything like that. And then I got arrested. I got arrested because between that time I was on heroin, I was still going out stealing, mainly burglaries. So I got arrested by the Bumblebee Squad, it was called back then, and they targeted prolific burglars. And they got me, they arrested me. They got me on some prints or something that I'd left on a safe. And so I got arrested, and I got I think it was a 3-year sentence. Yeah, and when I went in prison, back then in prison, they wouldn't give you anything. They wouldn't give you any medication. Like today, they give you methadone, or they give you Viceptone, or they give you tablets or whatever. But back then, they wouldn't give you anything. So basically, you were climbing the walls. So and I didn't know. I thought I was dying. I tried to hang myself. My cellmate came in. I was in the toilet, and I put this thing up on the toilet thing, tied it around my neck, because I was sick of feeling. It was a horrible feeling when you were withdrawing. I just thought I was going to die. Yeah. Anyway, so I thought, I'm doing a long time. Didn't like being in prison, so I thought the best way to get out of this is just kill myself. Yeah, and I strung myself up, and it was my cellmate that must have heard it. Bang, saying bang, and he came in and he pulled it away. He goes, "What are you doing that for, Del?" And he started talking to me, and I went, "Yeah, I know it's stupid, but I can't take it." And he goes, "You'll be all right in a couple of weeks." He'd been through it himself, and you'll be all right in a couple of weeks, or whatever, and you might not get your sleep pattern back, but you'll be all right. It won't last. And then I swore then, when I was in prison, when I come out, I'm never gonna touch it again. Yeah, but I came out, met the same mates, back into the same crime, because when you come out, they only give you a certain amount of money. Yeah, and then they sort of chuck you out of prison. No backup, no trying to rehabilitate you, try to help you go here and get help there. None of that comes into it. It's just like basically you're out, get on with it, and put you back in the same situation. So you're around your old neighbourhoods, you're around your old mates. Yeah, you're back taking heroin again because they're all taking heroin, all your mates, and you feel out of place. So you try to fit in as peers, yeah, or whatever. Yeah.
How did you come onto your script?
How did I come onto my script? I didn't know about methadone for years. No one had ever told me about scripts. All the people I was around were just constantly wanting to use. They weren't interested in coming off of it. Yeah, but I was. On occasions I would say, yeah, I went off it because of my family and stuff like that. But it never seemed to work, yeah, until one day I can't remember who, I think it was a girl I was having it with. Yeah, it was a girl I was having it with, and she was on methadone. And I said, "What's that?" And she goes, "Oh, that's just like a substitute, for to get you off the heroin." Yeah, and I said, "Oh, give me some of that," because I wanted to. Yeah, and I swallowed about 20 about 25 mil of it. And then I went out to the cafe, and I remember I was feeling like that in the cafe. Yeah, I couldn't keep my eyes open. I was all over it, and I thought, well, that's good stuff. Yeah, but she introduced me to this place. I can't remember what it was called now. It was in the Old Kent Road, and basically that's when I first started on the methadone. But when I got on the methadone, the partner I was with at the time, she was more interested in me going out stealing, because now I'm on the methadone. I'm not on the gear anymore. For about a month, I'm at home trying to sort myself out, you know, being there and doing things, yeah. And she liked the money. She liked me going out stealing, you know. So she'd cause arguments, and then she'd say, "Oh, your mate was looking for you the other day. I was out, and my mate hadn't been looking for me. Yeah, that was on gear." And then it wasn't long before I was back on it again, and it was just a vicious circle. So I was using the methadone and gear, and then I went back to prison again. I got a 12-year sentence this time for 10 counts of robbery. I got 12 years for every count of robbery, and I got another 8-year for aggravated burglary. So basically my robberies involved going in people's houses, going in building societies, whatever I could rob, I was robbing. I didn't care. And the police had me under surveillance for months and couldn't get me. And they ended up getting one of my co-defendants to set me up. And he ended up informing on me, and he ended up with 3 years, and I ended up with 12 years. So, and that really frightened me and my family. I could hear my family up in the gallery gasp with not just hearing about all the robberies that I committed, and the judge saying I'm a menace to society, I've got access to firearms, and I'm a danger to the public, and all the things that he was throwing at me and wanted to give me. He even considered giving me a life sentence that day. He went out for 15 minutes to see if he could give me a life sentence. My barrister said to me, "Don't worry, you have to be done with it twice. Yeah, before 2 strikes and you're out, before they can give you a life sentence." So it's my first time ever robberies. So anyway, I ended up being in prison, using in prison, selling in prison for people, not really giving a hoot. You know, I'm doing a long time now, fighting officers, fighting inmates. I was just a troubled, you know, when I'm going to get out, 8 years, 9 years, whatever, you know, it's a long time.
What did you see in prison? Did you see anything?
I see people commit suicide. I see people that I talk to. My next door neighbour killed himself, you know, and he was talking to me that night at the window, and you know, he was saying he had enough, and I was saying to him, I was talking to him, and I knew it went quiet. I knew he'd done something, but I couldn't get out myself. So, you know, and when I did ring the bell, yeah, it was too late. It was too late, and he was dead. And so I felt a little bit guilty about that. They didn't press the bell beforehand, you know what I mean? But yeah, so I've seen people get stabbed. I've seen officers get hot fat over them, and then another officer put hot fat from, you know, like oil. Yeah, from the kitchen. An inmate chucked oil over this officer and burnt all his skin. Yeah, it was horrendous. Oh, I swear, honestly, it was the worst thing I've seen. And his face just bubbled, you know, like blisters everywhere and pure red. And then his skin it's just like his skin come off his face. And this officer, of all things he threw on him, was a prison blanket. And the prison blankets had got like little grooves in them, and it was sticking to his face. Yeah, and he was screaming, and I'll never forget that scream. I've seen officers stabbed, I've seen a guy stab a person outside an office of all people with the officers in there. The guy run to seek help from the officers, and the guy didn't bother or didn't care about the officers, and he carried on stabbing him. Yeah, ended up killing him. Stabbed him 7 times before the officers got to him, and one of the stab wounds was in the heart, so he stabbed him to death. The worst one I ever see was in Bullingdon. The day I got to Bullingdon, my mate said to me, "Come out on the exercise yard with me." He went out on the exercise yard, and he said, "The next time you come out, wear magazines, because there's people that's stabbing people out here or robbing them for their whatever." And when I went out there, I could see these guys surround this fella, and next minute he was on the floor in a pool of blood, and he ended up dying in hospital later. So yeah, I've seen all sorts of, you know, people jump off landings. And
what advice would you give to anyone who's contemplating taking heroin?
Not to do it. Not to do it, because it only leads to death, jail, or just misery.